Today in this video lecture we will learn about the connection between the mathematics, literature and the language. These domains of knowledge might seem to constitute entirely different field of knowledge and practice and meaning. But in this lecture, we will try to find out the inherent, intricate, and the profound connection between the mathematics, literature, and the language. We will try to find a comprehensive inherent connection between these fields. Here, we have broadened our perspectives, broadened our understanding of how these fields intervene and inspire each other. Through this interdisciplinary journey, we aim to emphasize the richness of human expression and the ways in which the mathematics, language, and the human expressions shape together our perception and the interpretation of the world. Dear friend, this lecture is full of information, so I request you not to skip any part of the video and watch it till the end so that you can understand it very well. And please do like, share, subscribe my channel, and please comment on the video too. So let us start. Dear friends, language and literature, these two may be a very common domain of knowledge, but literature and the mathematics, they might appear to constitute entirely different domain of knowledge, practice, and the meaning. A connection between the mathematics and the literature cannot be clearly established without addressing the opposing popular image of the mathematics and the art or literature. You know that literature is often associated with the subjective, individual experience, emotional, and the experiences of the human life. It is produced and read in a particular historical, cultural, and the social context. In contrast, mathematics is commonly seen as a system of eternal truth that are established by objective, rigorous methods employed in a steady accumulation of the knowledge. Whereas literature is commonly accessible to all illiterate readers and might develop its greatest power and appeal when it gives rise to various interpretations. Mathematics, on the contrary, is celebrated for the certainty and precision and sometimes revered as a realm of genius. Mathematics is always considered for the genius people, and literature or the language that appeals to all people is a domain for all public. Now here we can find a clear-cut difference between the literature and the mathematics. Literature is very subjective, mathematics is very objective, and the both these domain of knowledge appears to be very pole apart. But neither literature nor mathematics tends itself to easy characterization. Both fields experiences remarkable changes, crises, and unsolved questions, and the relation between them is not one of clear-cut contrast but includes manifold connections, intricate parallels, and the creative borrowings. So, the popular image of the mathematics is based on the logical deduction, whereas the popular image of the art or literature is based on creativity and the intuition. But there are certain inherent links. Let us try to find out that. In the 20th century, critics like M. Eaton suggest that aesthetic appreciation of art should focus on the effect of an art on the observer rather than the properties. The common element among all aesthetic experience is a joy from engaging with the work of art. But H.G. Gardner, in his essay Truth and Method, which he wrote in 1998, he challenges the notion that the aesthetic experience is primarily joyful experience, joyful emotional experience. He suggests that there is a cognitive element, and that cognitive element to aesthetics in which the observer's interaction with the work of art is playful, and the observer's joy is a joy of knowing something more about the world and about ourselves. So it suggests that the emotion of the aesthetics is always joyful. A work of art evoke a strong emotion that are not joyful, but even it may be a painful one. There is also a struggle of creating an understanding of work of art. The struggle that is more likely painful and than the joyful. There are certain mathematical references that we find in the literary works. These literary works goes back to the Aristophanes, the birds. Even the Aristotle believes that the humans by nature enjoys learning, and they are curious about the world despite of the pain that may be associated with the learning and the understanding knowledge. So literature, language and the mathematics, they speak to one another in various ways, but their exchange do not merely lies in how symbolically they represent our world, but also lie in the ways in which both use the abstractions. It is worth pointing out that the link between the mathematics and the literature do not run just in one direction. Mathematics, no doubt, has a very rich linguistic creativity. Going back to the early days in India, particularly the Sanskrit mathematics that followed the oral tradition, and different mathematical algorithms were encoded in poetry so that they could easily be passed on to the next generation. So why here one question comes in a mind, that why these mathematicians, ancient mathematicians, encoded all types of algorithm in a Sanskrit poetry? Why? So the answer is that poetry touches the heart and therefore it could be easy to remember. Okay, so here we find one connection between the language and or literature and the mathematics. Friends, problem based learning is a very popular method, teaching method, and it provides a context for the students to learn the critical thinking and the problem solving skill. So both reasoning and the problem solving are the integral part of all mathematics and the language arts learning. So integration of the mathematics and the literature helps students to construct a meaning. Great literature and the great mathematics satisfy the same deep yearning in us for beauty, for truth and for yearning, for understanding. There is a deep reason we find mathematics at the heart of the literature. Dear friends, the complete universe is full of underlying structure, pattern, and regularity. Literature and the mathematics both are the best tools that we have for understanding it. Structure is important to both literature and the mathematics. Mathematics and literature both involves the recognition and the exploration of the pattern and the structure. In mathematics, pattern can be found in number, equation, geometric shapes, while in literature we find patterns on narrative structures, rhythms, schemes, rhythm schemes, rhyming schemes, poetic forms. Language as a medium of the expression in literature also exhibits the pattern, the structure through grammar, syntax, and the linguistic devices. So both language, literature, and the language and literature and mathematics use symbolisms to represent and conveys the complex ideas. In literature, symbols are often used to represent abstract concepts and emotions. Whereas in mathematics, symbols and equations represents the mathematical relationships, operations, enabling the mathematicians to express the ideas succinctly and precisely. Literature can provide a way to make mathematical learning more personal. Mathematics, by using numbers, shapes, deals in abstractions, while poetry uses words and deals in emotion. So while pattern and structure are important for the both the mathematics and the poetry, this there is a crucial link between the both is and the link is of the beauty. For both the mathematics and the poetry, homeopathic principle that less is more often applies. Mathematicians and the poet strives for the economy of the precision, selecting exactly the words and the ideas that they need to convey for the meaning. Both activities are expressions of creativity and the emancipation of the human spirits. The American famous mathematician David Smith observed that mathematics is the poetry of mind, while poetry is the mathematics of the heart. So there are many mathematicians, they produce remarkable verses, and there are so many poets and writers who are obsessed by the mathematical thought. For example, the 12th century Persian scholar Omar Khayyam, to whom we attribute the Rubaiyat. He was a mathematician and created beautiful geometrical solutions to the mathematical problems. Chaucer wrote Canterbury Tales and the treatise on the astrobels. The influence of the Isaac Newton, can be found on William Wordsworth, the great romantic poet. And this impact, this influence can be documented by the various scholars. A more explicit example of the Wordsworth respect for the Newton comes directly from his passage where he wrote of Newton with his prisms and silent face, the remarkable index of a mind for ever voyaging through the strange seas of thought alone. Another romantic poet, S.T. Coleridge, his best known poem, he is best known for his Rime of the Ancient Mariner. He wrote a letter to his brother George Coleridge, and in that letter he wrote, I have often been surprised that mathematics, the quintessence of truth, should have found admirers so few. So, the influence of the mathematics on the poetry began in the post Newtonian age when writers found rationality and the mathematical order, symbol, etc., to be more important than the emotion of the man. We know the age of reason and the wit. In that age of reason and the wit, Alexander Pope, he wrote an epitaph on Newton's tomb in the Westminster Abbey, and he wrote, nature and nature's law lay hid in the night. God said, let Newton be, and all was light. But as a result, poetry became so cold and mechanical in that rebel of the 19th century romantic poets followed quite naturally. In the book Discovering Patterns in Mathematics and the Poetry, Markia Bikren and Anna Kuhn, they provide many examples of the poet mathematicians that history has witnessed. For example, the Omar Khayyam, Lewis Carroll, Peyton, and others. All of them show a striking and even stimulating parallels between the poetry and the mathematics. Ezra Pound suggests poetry is a kind of inspired mathematics. As Ezra Pound puts it, poetry is a sort of inspired mathematics which gives us equation not for the abstract figure, triangles, square and the like, but for the human emotions. It is also true that certain kinds of poems, such as the topographical poems, concrete poems, visual poems, that directly provide those figures like triangles, squares, or that the Ezra Pound speaks of. An American poet, Cumming, and even before that the French poet Mallarmé, who produced the topographical poems arresting to the geometrical imagination. Another example of the American poet, that Carl Sandburg's Number Man, or even the W.H. Auden's The Unknown Citizen, where a citizen is reduced to a number, show a connection between poetry and the mathematics. So, good mathematics, like a good writing, involves an inherent appreciation of the structure, rhythm, and the pattern. A feeling that we get when we read a great novel or a perfect sonnet, that here is a beautiful thing with all the component parts fitting together perfectly in a harmonious whole. The same feeling a mathematician experiences when he finds a beautiful proof. The famous English mathematicians G.H. Hardy, in his Mathematician's Apology, remarks, a mathematician, like a painter or a poet, is a maker of pattern. He is, if his patterns are more permanent than theirs, it is because they are made of ideas. Further, he says, the beauty of the mathematical theorem depends on the deal on its seriousness, as even in poetry the beauty of the line may depend to have some extent on the significance of the ideas which it contains. More the ideas have significance, the thesis is more sound, so that our emotions are steered much more deeply. So, moreover, while both poetry and the mathematics deliver their truths, it is also true that the both mathematics and the poetry continue to suggest, probe all possible combinations and the configuration of the symbolic and the tropic phenomena, which however remain anchored in the material world in the final instance. Further, as far as the mathematicians and a particular concerned, it cannot be a functional rhetorically. Like just as the mathematicians uses analogy, homeology, constitutes, substitutions, equivalence, and so on to prove the answer, the poet uses simile, metaphors, metonymy, synecdoche, and other figures of speech. Like poetry, mathematics also uses reference, repetitions to even imposing so many different kinds of syllogism in their attempt to pursue. So, I have read one blog of the wondrous connection between the mathematics and the literature, written by Sarah Hart, the great mathematicians. And she confesses that she was delighted to find that Moby Dick abounds with the mathematical metaphors. She even realized that not just Herman Melville, but Leo Tolstoy also writes about calculus, and even the James Joyce wrote about the geometry. Cyclone is not just mentioned in Moby Dick but also in other great works like the Gulliver Travels and the Tristram Shandy. So we find a connection between the mathematics and the literature. Bernard Russell wrote about a pure mathematics having a beauty is capable of stern perfections like that of a great art. By seeing the mathematics and the literature as the part of the same quest, that is, to understand the world and our place in it, we can add to our experience of both, and by bringing the new layers of enjoyment to the literature. Dear friends, there is a connection between the mathematics and the language too. In order to find this connection between the language and the mathematics, we must try to understand the definition of the language. What is language? Language is a system of communication which must include some symbols, grammars, vocabulary, syntax, and the people who use it and understand it. Language must contain several factors like vocabulary of the words, symbols, meaning to attach to that symbols or the words, symbols. That language is used by a group of people who use and understand those symbols. So, again, mathematics is purely a truly language, and it helps what language is and how the vocabulary and the grammar of the mathematics are used to construct a sentence. Mathematics is makes this definition of language. Mathematics bridges all these requirements. There is a logical and the inherent connection between the mathematics and the English language. I here speak about the English language only. So many mathematicians have claimed that mathematics is a kind of a language which uses different symbols to convey the equations and the problems. Just as in language we use different part of speech, we use words, we use sentence to convey the meaning. Similarly, mathematicians uses different kind of symbols that can be used with, or that can be equated with certain types of part of speech in English. Every mathematicians use these symbols in their daily mathematical speech. Let us try to find out that. The first symbol is the number symbol. Yes. There is a number symbol that the mathematicians use in maths. Now, what is this mathematical symbols? Mathematical symbols means 1, 2, 3, 4, or first, second, third. So these are the numbers. And these numbers are maybe prime, natural, whole numbers, or decimal, etc. So these number symbols can be equated with noun. Noun could be fixed things such as numbers or the expressions with the numbers. Noun are naming words in English. So we can equate number symbol with the noun. The another type of symbol that the mathematicians use is the operational symbols. Now, what are these operational symbols? The operational symbols are the main and the basic mathematical symbols because they perform certain actions. For example, there is addition, there is subtractions, multiplications, and the divisions. So they help us to evaluate the mathematical expressions. For example, 4 plus 5 plus 35 minus 2. Now what is this? This expresses the equation, and the expression consists of multiple expressions. So these are the plus sign, minus sign of multiplication, division, etc. So these operational symbols can be equated with the verbs. What is verb? Verb is the action word. It shows what type of action the noun performs. How it shows how and what action is going on. The words such as gain, more, sum, total, increase, decrease, plus all mean to add. The words such as difference between, minus, decrease, less, fewer, loss, they mean to subtract. Words such as the product of, doubled of, twice, thrice, a fraction of, a percentage of, or all times, all of times, or many times, multiples, per, it shows the multiplications. And the words like the quotient of, divide of, equally, divide equally, or per, these mean to divide. So again, there is some relational symbols. Now what is this relational symbols? Relation symbol shows the relations. For example, in mathematics we have equal to, less than, greater than. Okay. So these relational symbols used to denote the mathematical relations which take one or the multiple mathematical object to form full mathematical sentences. In arithmetics and in common mathematics, these symbols, these relational symbols related to equality and the comparison. The relationship symbol shows if one value is larger or smaller equal or approximately equal to another value. So these relational symbols can be equated with the prepositions. Preposition in English are other relation word. They can indicate the location, time, or other more abstract relationship. A preposition combines with the another word, usually a noun or a pronoun called complement. At, on, in, around, into, and behind are the prepositions are in relation to the time and the place. After, across, behind, to, through, around, underneath, opposite, and against are the preposition are in relation to the direction. Below, down, under, after, on, in, beside, above are the prepositions in relations to the object. So we can equate these relational symbols with the prepositions. Then there is in mathematics we have the grouping symbol. Now what is this grouping symbol? Grouping symbol is used to indicate that a particular collection of a number of meaningful operations are to be grouped together and considered as number as one number. So grouping symbols like the parenthesis, brackets, okay, braces that are used to group the number or the variables or the letters, okay, and these are frequently used for the grouping and to have the same effect as the parenthesis. The grouping symbol shows the associations in the math, and understanding of the wrong association may lead to the wrong solutions in mathematics. So this grouping symbol can be equated with the punctuation marks. In English, we have the same kind of grouping symbol. Now what is punctuation? All of you know that punctuation is a set of symbols that we use to separate and clarify the meaning of a sentence or a written element. In other words, punctuation tells readers of your writing where to pause and what words are quotations and which are the clarifications, where the words have been omitted, and more. In a simple term, punctuation marks are the symbols to create the support meaning within the sentence or to break it up. Examples of the different punctuation marks can be given. For example, the full stop, commas, okay, question marks, exclamatory marks, colon, semicolons, okay, speech marks, question marks, okay. So there are so many punctuation marks that we use in the language. So punctuation marks can be equated with the grouping symbol in mathematics. In mathematics, again, there is a variable, the another symbol, that is the variable is used. Variable is a kind of a symbol that represents the mathematical objects. Now what is this variable? The variable may represent any number or the vector or the matrix, a function, and the argument of a function, a set or the element of the set. A variable can be an alphabet or a term that represents the unknown number and the unknown value or the unknown quantity in the maths. In mathematics, we often use, let us suppose this is x. So what is this x? X is a variable. That the variable is a quantity that can be changed or which is not even fixed to the mathematical operations performed. So usually in algebra, we express the unknown number by using the term like x or the y. But this is not particular that we use or that we stand for any alphabet. So this variable stands for a number, just like the pronoun stands for the noun. So variable can be equated with the pronoun. So pronoun, what you know, that pronoun is a word that is the assistant of noun, that stands for the noun. So a pronoun is a word that we use instead of noun or a noun phrase. Pronoun refers either to noun or that have already been mentioned, or a noun that does not need to be named specifically. Pronouns like he, she, it stands and functions for the noun in a sentence. There are various types of pronouns like personal pronoun, interrogative pronoun, possessive pronoun, then demonstrative pronoun, indefinite pronouns, relative pronoun, reflexive pronouns. Okay, so they acts like variables in mathematics. So here again we have the connection between the mathematics and the language, English language. So both mathematics and the language have well defined rules governing their structures and the uses. In mathematics, these rules for constructing valid equations, proof, and the mathematical statements. In language, we have the grammar, syntax rules that indicate how the word and the sentence are structured to form a coherent communication. Mathematics is deeply rooted in a logical reasoning with a proof serving as a foundation for the establishing the truth of the mathematical statements. Language also involves the logical reasoning, as we use it to formulate the arguments or draw a conclusion or to pursue other. So the study of this relationship can provide a valuable insight into the nature of both disciplines and how they contribute to our understanding of the world. So, I personally think that the connection between the mathematics, language, and literature is a very fascinating area of exploration that highlights the intricate relationship between the seemingly different disciplines. The connection between them goes beyond mere observations, and there are certain ways of human pursues, express, and comprehension information in a diverse and interconnected ways. The connection between the mathematics, literature, and the language runs deep, showing how different disciplines can enrich and inform one another. By exploring these connections, we gain a very deeper understanding and the intricacies of the human thought and the creativity. Hope you understand this, my views, like it, and dear friend, please do like, share, subscribe my channel, and yes, please comment on the video too. Thanks for watching.